Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200.
Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. This is Merle Hutchinson being joined by my little bit under the weather, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. I got my booster shot yesterday. It's kicking my butt.
Oh, man. So there are side effects from the booster. Linda was feeling great.
I feel like I was having a heart attack last night.
And then all of a sudden she got a booster.
I felt like I got an elephant sitting on my... So I kind of feel a little drugged up today.
Oh, man.
I apologize.
We will apologize and ask for forgiveness, anything that's said in the show.
Okay. Plus, I'm going to confess. So I've been doing some last minute Christmas shopping. And of course I picked the day. Like it was cold, dark rain. Like
last night was miserable around
like,
here in
the
tri-state.
Why am I leaving it up to the last time? And it's really because I don't have ideas. Like I'm getting into the desperation mode because I always hope to get inspired, and buy those gifts that everybody wants under the tree. And then at the last minute, I'm like, gift cards for everybody, So it's like, frustrating.
Like most years, I'm usually an obstacle to Linda's Christmas shopping. But
no, you helped out last night.
if you get pinned against the wall,
you
just throw down the list, and I will put the camo on and paint my face camo colors, and we will go out and slay.
You are good at that. Usually December 23rd, 24th.
Let me know. I am available. See, otherwise what happens if I go out now with that mindset, it drives Linda crazy because I'm not looking for deals. I'm picking stuff up. I'm throwing it in carts, and Linda's like,
Oh, yeah. I do. I shop for that deal, and then I get frustrated because I should have bought it the first time when it wasn't on sale because now I can't find it. Is anybody else having that issue? I know we're counseling a lot of folks that are dealing that stress, so especially those mamas out there.
We had a discussion the other day between you and I about decision making. How I just pull the trigger on things and you can waffle back and forth. And that's why, like, on a lot of those things, we just don't do well making the decision together because of the timing thing. Linda has got to process it differently. That drives me crazy, and it drives her crazy when I just pull the trigger on things. So we've learned to do some of that separately.
But I can't get mad if you're not helping because you don't help the way I want.
I end up...
I'm learning.
Yeah, so that doesn't go well. So
34 years of marriage.
You learn to dance. You got to learn to dance without stepping on each other's toes.
There you go.
All right. So, hey, what are we going to talk about anyway? So as we've babbled on and on, like...
I think this is the topic, isn't it?
Well,
are we talking about Christmas gifts?
We're talking about Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
But we're going to go in a little bit different direction. We are talking today about I'm just going to call it for the sake of getting your interest. We're talking about buying for what we might think of it as the forgotten child.
The forgotten child?
The forgotten child.
When you got 5, I mean, you're bound to miss one,
you
right?
Miss one. Oh, Johnny, well, next year we'll get you. And you can sit and watch.
You're the forgotten child this year.
You can watch your siblings.
Yeah.
And so there is somewhat of a forgotten child. And that is, in today's show, that is called the marriage. We treat our kids, we can even treat each other, but we forget that the idea that the marriage is actually a new entity. It's something that has to be taken care of, almost like a whole nother person. It has to be fed, it has to be nurtured, it has to be rested, it has to be encouraged, it has to be disciplined. It's all these things that a marriage has to do. And if it doesn't do it, and it often doesn't, right? Because it's not as easy to see and deal with. It gets pushed to the side.
And that's a great point, because think about that. If you had a child, okay, so we have 5 children. If we did forget one and we didn't nurture that child, or if we didn't include that child, and if we didn't celebrate that child and really show them they have value in our home, how would they make that child feel?
Imagine that, right? Like, my mom was always very good about making sure every kid had equal representation.
Because you have 5 children too.
Yeah, we had 5 kids in our family. And, when we were younger, it was actually like equal number of presents. But as you got older and value of presents started to change, it was, she made it very clear, equal to the penny was spent per child.
We don't exactly do the penny, but
yeah, but it was because she was very aware of how it might feel if somebody felt slighted.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that the marriage doesn't always get to speak up for itself.
Yeah, that's true. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, we need to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction and Hummel Insurance Group for just coming alongside Rock Solid Radio. We're so thankful for their support. And we hope that you will make sure they know that you're listening and that you're thankful as well.
Okay, so the calendar that's coming up with some different events, and I might even call them announcements. Linda had a problem with us using the word announcement. So we're going to start calling them upcoming events.
So here's what I think about when I think of the word announcements. And this is kind of a weird trigger, but when I was camp dean of church camp, there was a song that went along with that. Announcements, announcements, now. And literally we would dance around and it kind of still rings in my head. So I don't know. I'm sorry.
So she really wanted me to rewrite the script. And I'm like, are you really being serious?
No, I didn't. I just said I just don't care
So anyway,
for the word.
these are things. These are things that we're looking at and coming up in the upcoming weeks.
Hey, be
and
kind
months.
to me. I have my booster.
I know, she's boosting. Your booster's supposed to lift you.
I know, it's
Your
not.
booster's dampening you.
No.
All right, so we do have some things we do want to mention. Okay, so we want to talk about the idea of the workshops that we have, great families working on purpose. And so, honey, tell them a little bit about that whole idea.
Yeah, that's the first one coming up, and it's just a couple weeks away on January 15th. It's at Church on Fire Ministries, which is a church in Harrison, Ohio. It's open to the public. It's going to be just a half-a-day workshop, but this is a real intentional thing about assessing the mental health of our children. And you and I are going to be involved with the youngest group, the K through 5th grade, the kindergarten through 5th graders, and we're going to really be working with them on really where their identity comes from and where they handle stress from and what they deal with the darkness in this world with the light of Christ. And so we're really going to be handling that while the teenagers are going to be spoken to and the adults are going to be spoken to. So it's actually kind of a family affair if you have children over the age of 5 or 6.
Yeah, so Linda and I are not putting this on. We're actually just working as a support to this. And so
one of the presenters.
Yeah, we're presenters in this, but is there a place they can go to get more information on this?
Yeah, so I would Google Church on Fire Ministries in Harrison, Ohio, and then go on their website. I don't have it off the top of my head, but then you can register right online. They are asking for pre-registration just because they want to make sure that they have coverage, especially for the children and seating and all that stuff. It's going to be actually at the Harrison High School Activity Center, or the auditorium. So it's a great time, and I hope that you'll join us on January 15th.
But sponsored by Church on Fire.
Just actually the community. There's a lot of corporate sponsors as well.
They're driving it hard.
Yes,
okay,
they're organizing it.
Okay, so also we have an event that is talking about Families Rock, and Families Rock is our parenting program that we are going to be offering over at Urban Crest Church over in Lebanon, Ohio. And so that is going to be February 12th. And right now that's looking like it's going to be a 9 to 4 event, but registration is going to start around 8. So that is going to be a great workshop, hon. We've actually, this is kind of a bread and butter of ours in terms of talking parenting, and we cover some really cool topics just on everything from who's the boss in the house to what we're doing with technology in the house and, discipline matters and things like that. So everything that we talk about there is structured and designed to be very practical and hands-on. And we also have some Q&A type time too, because, everybody's got a little different spin on the situations going on in their home. And if we can help, we would like to try to help in that.
Yeah, I do think pre-registration is required. So you need to go online. Again, search Urban Crest Church in Lebanon, Ohio. Go online and register there. There is a small cost to cover lunch and childcare and all that stuff. So we hope that you'll join us there. We're just, again, presenters for that workshop. And then we have another one, a marriage workshop that's coming up called Secure the Knot. It's actually based on a marriage enrichment weekend we did. It's going to be sponsored by Bright Christian Church, and it is on February 19th. It's a full day again. that does not have childcare, but it does involve lunch. And we're hoping that you'll make arrangements and register for that on February 19th.
Yeah, so some great stuff coming up. As always, we appreciate you guys just looking at our website, reading our blogs, listening to our shows. Anything that you guys see that you see as valuable, please help us share it, get it out there. These are the kinds of things that we do want to be a resource. We do this stuff for the reason that we think it's important. So help us by sharing, give us those 5-star ratings and that kinds of thing. So let's get into talk about the forgotten child called mismarriage. Little mismarriage.
You know, and it is a topic, Hun, that really hits close to home for us because we see couples coming in all the time that are really not prioritizing each other and that relationship. It is the most valuable relationship it should be the most valuable relationship in your life if you're married. And we hope that you prioritize it like that.
Yeah.
Aside of God.
Yeah. And so what would it look like, right? And so we did give the example at the beginning of the show about what would happen if you forgot to provide for your kiddos on Christmas morning, if you forgot one of them out of the others, and how devastating that could be. And, you know, eventually when you hold back or neglect a child like that, they tend to shut down. They tend to withdraw, and you don't get what that child is possible or the potential of. And that's the same thing that we see with marriages. We all the time see marriages not living up to their potential.
Yeah.
All right, the marriage could be so much greater in so many ways.
Yeah.
And so think of, as we go through the show, we are going to encourage you to think of the marriage as a living, breathing being, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I've got to feed this thing. I've got to take care of this thing.
When you mentioned this, how you were going to approach this, hon, I love this because it is true. It's an entity that we've got to preserve. And when we put priorities like our work, you know, if we say, I'm sorry, I got to work. What you're telling your spouse is that work is more important. When the dog comes over and it licks you and you pet it and you sit down with it and you love on it, and then your husband's over there, your wife's over there, and you haven't even given that much attention to your spouse, you gave more attention to the dog. I say it all the time that your spouse feels like they rank somewhere below the dog.
That. Yeah. Yeah. So think about it from this perspective, okay? In our life, we like to celebrate and gift things that we feel are valuable, right? So we celebrate birthdays and things like that. We even celebrate anniversaries, okay? The idea here is we celebrate things that are valuable. And I think sometimes we forget how valuable the marriage itself is. And if you really just want to get concrete about this, and I don't encourage anybody to actually walk through the actual process, but do a little study real fast on what a divorce will cost you.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have a diagram that we were talking about a little bit before we recorded the show.
Yeah.
And about the average cost of just the divorce, okay, just the legal proceeding, the average cost is around $15,000. Okay. So, you know, a little cheaper, a little more expensive, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay. That's not the value of your marriage.
Yeah.
What we're actually talking about is all of the implications, everything from, and financial means,
yeah.
Now we're providing for multiple homes, vehicle, transportation, times, schedules, double sets of clothes, double sets of bedroom, all of these different things. But that's not even the cost we're talking about.
Yeah, we're actually going to post this when we do this show. But man, just the death, the loss of that relationship to our social circles. You know, you and I have a lot of common friends. And so we've had to deal with that with our clients where when there's a divorce, the death of that relationship means the death of a lot of friendships. You know, the death of maybe in-laws that you really enjoyed being around. You know, some of our best friends is your sister and her husband. And so what would that look like if all of a sudden this relationship was gone? You know, not to mention the whole idea of companionship, where you go on Christmas and what you do on your birthday. You know, when you don't have that special someone, then you do feel that. Traditions, you know, that we've built together over 7 years together, all of a sudden that's gone. And so the death of that relationship hopefully is going to motivate you to really prioritizing that relationship.
Yeah. So beyond the financial value of your marriage, there are so many things that are going to carry an impact of either losing value or gaining value based off of what you do in your marriage. And I think, as we mentioned, hon, the money thing, that's what people actually kind of wrap their head around quickly, like, okay, this is going to cost me more money to do this and this and this. And that's where they go. But it's not until they get 5, 10, 15 years out where they start to see how it's affected their kids, how it's affected relationships, all of these other things. And if we don't wrap our head around like what the value of that is, we'll just dismiss it like, well, it's no big deal.
Yeah. And we're going to put a disclaimer here. We're not talking about an abusive relationship.
No.
So if there's some kind of abuse or neglect that you have removed yourself from, then get some help so that you can deal with this. Because honestly, hon, and you and I have talked about this before, it's grief. It's grief. It's like the death of a marriage. And so if you've experienced divorce or separation, please get some professional help in dealing with the grief and the loss that comes from that. But we're trying to be on the preventative side, right? We're trying to be on the proactive side of you're still married. Okay, we're assuming you're still married. And if you're listening to this, you're single. I really want you to think back and say, okay, what was my part in that of maybe that I neglected the relationship and my husband or my wife felt like a forgotten child?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we talk then about giving some advice and some help on that, like we really do want, as we talked about before, think about the marriage as an actual being. Okay.
Yep.
And so what does it take for a person, if I were to look at an individual person, what are those needs that we want to take care of?
Yeah.
And obviously we can talk about the physical needs, but there are much deeper needs, emotional needs, psychological, lots of different things. And so I put down some different areas. I went to some different areas that I think are extremely valuable that a marriage needs. If it could talk, it would say these things.
So if you're listening and you've got a couple more days till Christmas and you were thinking that this was going to be one of those Amazon lists of wishes that the spouse wants, this isn't it at all.
We're going to save you some money.
Because it really doesn't involve money at all. It doesn't have to. So I don't want you to use money as the excuse or the lack of money as an excuse as to why you can't invest in your marriage. Okay. This has nothing to do with stuff.
Yeah.
So get that correct.
So if you want, I would say even get out a piece of paper and a pen or something, because what you'll do is when I went through these lists just for Linda and I thought of, oh, that's an area that we're pretty strong in. Oh, this is an area we could use a little help in. Okay. Like I could see myself separating those out. So here are some primary areas. And again, I don't know that there's more or less, but I know that these are things that we deal with on a regular basis in relationships. The first one is your marriage could use quality communication, good communication. That could be a gift that we could give it.
That's like feeding the fire. So if you had a little fire in your fireplace or maybe a little fire pit outside and you had a log and it got a great flame going and maybe that was your wedding night, your honeymoon, and then you never put another log on the fire. You never fed the fire.
That's a good song right there. I like that.
And that's what happens if you don't continually keep up the communication. We say to couples at least 15 minutes every day where you're feeding the fire. Again, not throwing gasoline on, erupting anger and conflict, but you're trying to keep things current. You don't want to brush things under the rug and kind of let things just die on the vine. Like that's really what we see a lot of.
Another area is what I just termed out as affection and romance. Okay,
because that's what you love.
There you go. So the idea here is, and by the way,
I'll let you handle this one.
I can't tell you how many times I run into men that after a very short conversation, I recognize how romantic they are. Like a lot of times we dismiss men as like not being romantic. We know quite a few men who like really enjoy Hallmark Christmas movies, going out on dates. Okay. So my point just with all of that is we've got to take care of not just the sexual need, but also the physical presence need. Like, do I like to be talked to in a certain way? Do I like, physical talk or just your presence around, whether it's holding hands or walking with? the point is it doesn't matter what Linda and I's is. It is what your marriage is calling for. That's the one we need to talk about. And now's the time to think about a gift that we could give that part.
Yeah. Most likely one of you in the partnership is more tuned to non-sexual affection, where you loved, whether it be little gifts or whether it be kind words or whether it be hand holding, but that it doesn't lead to sex. And then the other one, most likely
I don't
guys.
understand that, but yeah, go ahead.
Most likely the guys. And again, I've seen this reversed,
Yep.
that just want to jump in bed. And so we got to be really attuned to what our spouse needs, what our spouse wants. What do they complain about? What do they ask for? That's what you give them on Christmas. That's what you show them on Christmas. And that's the greatest gift you can give them.
Here's another gift idea. Okay. There is a need for adventure and exploration. Okay. Adventure and exploration. Hunter, remember that show? What was it called? The Greatest Race or whatever?
Amazing Race. Yeah.
Amazing Race. And I always said, man, I don't know if you and I would do well on that show.
I don't think so.
Because there was a lot of adventure. It was a lot of stress and intensity. There was a lot of quick decision making that would have to be made.
I'd be in trouble.
I think we'd both be in trouble. I think we'd be on the rocks. So
no, and that's something that I think was feeding your fire looking at that. And that was bringing me anxiety, like the thought of that. But I can't sit on the couch and do nothing.
Right.
If I'm a creature of comfort, which I am, and change is hard, which it is, I have to think, what does Merle need? What feeds his fire? And so if I want to please him and I want to give him a gift, then I'm going to think outside my comfort zone and do something that maybe makes me uncomfortable, but would be adventurous and fun for him.
That's right. And so again, we're looking at your marriage and what it needs. Remember, you're feeding two individuals, and if one of them dies off, the marriage itself begins to die. So that's why it's a constant union of how we're trying to feed that adventure and that exploration. It might be starting a new business of sorts. It might be travel. It might be, adopting a child. So there's different things like that, the adoption of children, that was up to Linda's sense of adventure. That was not mine. But either way, it's trying to feed the marriage.
Starting a business, nonprofit,
Yeah, win.
Well, another one is faith. Is there a common faith, a faith foundation that you are building off of? We are excited about our new online marriage program, Rock Solid Marriages, that we are developing right now. It's going to be offered in early 2022. But part of that is going to be, what foundation are you building off of?
Yeah.
The common faith of the two of you is so important. So if you're not on the same page, a great gift you can give your partner is say, hey, where are we at spiritually? Where do we want to go spiritually? What are we doing to feed that? Because we need it desperately.
Yeah. And this next one that we're going to talk about is one of my first indicators when I'm working with a couple that has been married for, a number of years. This is a question that I will ask very soon when I start to detect that it's maybe not well. I'll say, what are you guys dreaming to do together? What are your common dreams, your shared dreams? And you'll see that when couples, when their marriage is not strong, they will not have future dreams anymore. They won't be dreaming about the summer home or the vacation together, okay? They'll be dreaming separately.
Yeah. And hon, I want to speak to that because we've got a lot of folks who are coming in crisis mode in our office. And so for them to think past tomorrow is too hard, okay? And I get it, but you need to call it what it is. If you've just lost a parent, if you've just been diagnosed with cancer, if your child just got a serious chronic illness, whatever, you've got to admit that, hey, things are tough right now. We're going to circle the wagons and we're going to focus on that. And we can't even think about where we're going to be next year because we don't even know if we'll have our son then next year. I mean, I get that. But that's just a small example of a short period. You can't live in that forever. Okay. Right. So get the help you need to get out of the crisis mode. So instead of a reactive lifestyle and a reactive mode you're living in, you're going to start becoming proactive again. That's when we know there's healing, when you can start thinking ahead and when you start dreaming about the future. And we love that. We've seen that a lot in couples where they finally get out of the crisis mode, they build that trust back up, they get a faith foundation, and then they can start dreaming again.
But that does lead me then to the next thing. So you have shared dreams, but you also have common projects. Okay. And when you were talking there, I was thinking, somebody could be in a difficult situation. Your house just got hit by a tornado. We've just been having a lot of that in the Midwest area here the last couple of weeks. Could be cancer, could be illness of some sort, loss of a job. Whether you like that or not, that becomes a project. Yeah. And how you share that together, okay? How you go through that. You have somebody with a terminal illness, you coming together. One of the things that we know is that when people go through tragedy, there's a higher likelihood of divorce because they go through it differently. Yep. They grieve differently. And so that becomes a project that if we don't have some unity in terms of how we're going to allow each other to go through that, we're going to run into some difficulty. So that whole idea of these projects, whether it's building an addition on the home or rebuilding the home after devastation, we're working on it together.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of couples that are dealing with either an adult child that's moved back home or a aging parent that they're caring for. And so that becomes a focus. That's a common project, but you got to make sure you're on the same page with that, because if you're having to stay at your dad's house because he's ill and I'm resentful of that and I do my own thing, then we start to separate and fade away from each other.
Yeah. Another one, especially I think it's very relevant to the times that we live in, is just this simple thing called rest.
That's what I need right now. That's what I need right now,
honey.
Your
marriage really needs rest. And what rest means in this situation is not busy, not being so overbooked. I put this in our list intentionally because of the season that we're in. But I can tell you, I run into this all the time. Everybody seems to be busy. Right. And I don't, a lot of it can be busy, but a lot of it can be in the head busy.
Actually, what did you and Kyle call it on Strong Dads the other day? You had a different name for it.
Task saturated.
Yes,
I was people today are no longer busy. They're task saturated.
Well, Kyle's a millennial, so sorry, Kyle.
I said, "Well, you're task saturated. I'm just busy, man. I'm not even half of what you are."
But you are true, hon. We've got so many 2-parent families who are working full time, and they're trying to take the kids to 5 different soccer practices, and they're trying to clean the house, and they're trying to, it's hard to balance that. And what comes to be the last thing on the list is each other. Mm-hmm. And it's the forgotten child, just like we're talking about. Yeah. It's not just a Christmas.
Rest is intentional on the part of God, right? It's kind of where the idea of the Sabbath comes from. And so your marriage also needs rest. And that just means sometimes nothing pulling on it, right?
Yeah.
So think about that. The last thing goes a little bit past the rest, and it's now talking about the quality time, right? Being intentional with the time. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that might mean, but just a simple date or just having some conversation or having the time to do that. So that is not rest. It can be restful, but it's not intentional in rest. It's intentional in the quality that we're going to try to use that time for.
Yeah, ladies, I'm going to talk to you. If your husband is always getting the leftovers after you've fed the kids and bathed the kids and you've gone to work and you've cooked dinner and you've cleaned the house and all those things, and then your husband's looking at you like, hey, what about me? I remember being very resentful of that. And I remember feeling overwhelmed, like I cannot do one more thing. If one more person needs me, if one more person calls my name, I'm going to go in and hide in my room. Well, you know what? You got to talk to your partner about that. You got to literally say, hey, hon, can we talk? Something's got to give, because they see you frazzled. As a matter of fact, that's when I quit teaching, because it was 2 full-time people and I was driving half an hour, and we had a little cranky toddler who did not like to go to the babysitter, and it was stressful on all of us, and it didn't work on paper, but it did for our marriage. And what I said was, you know what? Teaching full-time is not worth it. It's not worth it. My mental health. It's not worth our marriage. And so we had to make some cutbacks, but man, it definitely...
They weren't cutbacks at all in the reality of it. I mean, it was, you maybe had a little hiccup in your step when you first did it, right? When you made that decision, but it didn't take us long at all to go, this is so much better.
Yeah, there was just so much rest. And then there was quality time where I was home to cook dinner, and I was home when the kids got off the bus, and it made such a huge difference in our marriage and our family. So sometimes you have to decide, what's more important? Is it more important that I'm climbing the corporate ladder, or that I have a husband or a spouse who is happy and that we are in a good place.
Yeah. Okay. So we went through some major areas there that just to kind of give you a focus of the ideas where maybe your marriage could use some help and get you to be thinking. But hon, let's just be even another level of practical.
Okay.
Let's actually give some practical things that we have found to be helpful and maybe the reason behind them. Okay.
Yeah. So the first one would be to prioritize at least 15 minutes a day. And if you're a man watching this, I'm telling you, your woman, it will be feeding her spirit because she's an emotional being and talk is sometimes her love language. And so please make it a priority to sit down and ask her how her day was. Ask questions and not just say, oh, it's good, great. Okay, what's for dinner? Keep asking, keep probing, not because you're trying to control her or him or because you're trying to interrogate him, but because you care and you want to know.
So another one we talked that was great on the communication side, the affection and the romance side. Something that I think both Linda and I get a kick out of is just flirting with each other. Okay, having fun with each other, and so whether that's through just a simple text message or a phone call, just being silly around each other in that way, that is a level of affection that it's hard to flirt with somebody when you're angry with them or when you have a brokenness in the marriage.
It's hard to be angry when you're flirting with them too.
Yeah, and so doing those simple kinds of things, I think it's important too that you recognize just by asking, how do you feel more appreciated and valued in the affection? So don't make it a blind, you figure it out kind of thing. Help them.
We kind of learned the hard way that your idea of flirting and mine were different. And sometimes...
Well, you had it wrong, but...
sometimes you be grabbing and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, that's not flirting. I don't like that,
It's just a beast.
But I had to speak that. I can't just be resentful, and I just can't keep quiet about it. And then you think, oh, she likes it. No, if I don't like it, I need to tell them.
Yep.
Okay, so please.
Yeah, and so you learn those levels of respect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make some new memories, whether it be you're going on a camping trip or maybe you're, going to a different church or that you're, creating some new traditions, do something that will be something memorable that you can look back and laugh.
Hon, when I think about the faith component, I think of Ecclesiastes 4:12. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves, and a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. The 3 strands, if I'm a strand, Linda's a strand, there's got to be a third, okay? And the third is our faith in God, okay? And so that whole idea that we would intentionally develop a practice in this new year coming up as a Christmas gift to each other, a new faith practice that lets each other know that we are not going to rely on ourselves to figure things out, which means now I'm going to humble myself in the eyes of God. So that what that means is when I think I want to go into an argument with Linda and I want to kind of debate to protect my righteousness, that I surrender it to the third chord, which is in this case, which I should probably say the first chord, right? The primary chord, which is actually God here. Yeah. And when Linda does the same thing, the cord itself is so much stronger. The rope is stronger.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a marriage relationship. Any friendship, any relationship that you involve that third strand is going to be healthier and stronger. Hun, I was thinking about this when we have clients who kind of graduate and who are in a good place. A lot of times they have created this new faith foundation that they didn't have before. We are in a third generation of faithlessness now where a lot of our clients never grew up seeing faith foundation at all. Their parents didn't go to church, even their grandparents didn't go to church. And so we're starting to see that trend where they come in clueless as to what God could do in their marriage. And so this is one of the most powerful gifts you can give your marriage and your family is to create a faith foundation, a new journey with the Lord.
A lot of people have used one of their traditions is Sunday church.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's great. Absolutely great. But when a tradition loses its meaning, then you have to understand, okay, our kids don't even know why we go to church. Yeah. We don't even know why we go to church. So keep value and meaning in the traditions that you start. So just remember that, like that's an important thing to do.
And we've said this in many shows before, but couples who pray together on a regular basis, less than 1% divorce. So you want to give your spouse a gift, pray with them. Reach their hand and say, hey, can I pray with with you, for you, and then ask them to pray for you. And so that binds you together in a way that maybe you've never experienced, an intimacy. So man, I challenge all of our couples to do that. Some of them feel like they're creeped out by it, but man, once you start, you're not going to want to stop.
Mm-hmm. Here's an idea for, and I'm gonna caution on this idea because I've seen it go south in a lot of relationships. Build something together. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want me building. I usually paint the closets.
Yeah. So the idea of building something together, after you've been together for a while, you start to see your living patterns and styles and the things that you like and that you don't like. And the idea that you eventually come around and you go, I see how we're doing life together. How about we build, we've both talked about a sunroom for the longest time. Let's build a sunroom. Let's redo the kitchen. Let's make an addition on the home.
Are you trying to put people in divorce court?
No, but that is my caution. So this will build the marriage when it's done well. And so how it's done well involves all those other areas that I talked about before, the communication and the respect and the affection. Yeah. And so, hon, we've done a lot of building projects.
We have.
And
2 houses, a remodel, and a basement.
But I've never looked at them really as a stress. I mean, they're a stress in the physical sense. You've got to do the work, but they actually usually bring us together.
Yeah.
Because we go back and forth a little bit, and there's give and take. We don't get locked down on it's got to be this color or it's got to be this idea. You go back and forth because when it's finished, you see the project, and then you see what you're going to be able to do with it together.
But hon, a lot of that has to do with the fact that you've included me in the process, which I so respect. But then I also respected you, that I'm going to trust that you know what you're doing. And so I kind of stay out of your lane, and you include me in on the process. And so that's really important. When someone just kind of railroads a project and doesn't allow the spouse to be involved, then there's resentment that's built. So we can go the opposite. So make sure you're on the same page.
That's why we put a caution tag on that one,
Makes the communications good before you start a big project together.
Linda and I do something, I would say we probably do it at least once a month, but probably for sure every quarter of the year, where we go out and on the date itself, we do a dream date. We say, what are you dreaming of? Where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And I started that when we were dating, and Linda used to look at me like I was weird, which she had that part right. But the idea that not like we said before, we want to dream together, but I also want to see that my partner is dreaming.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's a fun date to do because it encourages each other to support each other. Linda has said stuff to me like, someday I think I'd like to write a book. Well, that's not really one of the dreams that I have, but I know that she wants to do that. And you know what? If that would help her, I can't wait for her to roll on that.
Yeah. I didn't bring it out with me, but when we have premarital couples, we give them a gift called the Marriage Journal. And it is an amazing little book. It's got a little devotional in it for the couple, but it also gives a place where they can dream together weekly. And it's a whole year of it. And so I really encourage you can go to themarriagejournal.com and order one for you and your spouse. And it's powerful. I've had couples who have just been married and couples been married over 40 years do it. And they're like, wow, we're dreaming together, because it's intentional questions that you're asking each other every week to keep yourself on that same page and prioritize each other.
Okay. The last area, I'm going to kind of combine a couple things. You have a calendar, right? And most of us now have a calendar on our phone. A lot of us are very active with that calendar. If you are like many couples struggling with the idea of busy, all right, then I will tell you that that's like when I hear people say, I am too busy to work out. And I will tell you that is garbage. And I say that in a loving way because I've used that excuse myself. It's about priority.
Yeah.
It is about priority. And so you have a calendar. And some things that Linda and I have to practice this as well. Some things we have to put on our calendar are rest, workout.
Family dinner time.
Family dinner time.
Yeah.
A date night. Like you
Yep.
build those into the calendar because the marriage needs that, right?
Yep.
So now I'm intentional versus the marriage is the last thing to get the scraps off the
Yep.
table.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a calendar. Don't be a victim to this and look at each other and say, no, this is a priority. This is going to start to go in our calendar. And you know what, if somebody else calls me, no, it looks like I can't use it this time because, you know, we protect it.
There's nothing sexier than a spouse that does that for their spouse. And so you prioritize what's important. I say that all the time. You prioritize what's important. So what you're saying is if you don't have time to date your spouse or to sit down and talk to your spouse, what you're telling your spouse is you're not important. So that's the forgotten child we're talking about. So as we wrap up, you know, remember, two are better than one, but the third strand is where we find that strength.
Yeah. So that the idea here, guys, is this year for Christmas, let's not just get all bogged down by the gifts and the busyness and all that. Let's just, as couples, have a little bit of time to talk about where's some areas in our marriage that we've just completely neglected. And we gave you a list of some of those things, and maybe there's others for you in particular. But be purposeful on saying, you know, 2022, as it's getting ready to come around the corner, is something that we no longer want to have an average marriage. We do want it to be one of the more valuable things that we take care of. If I have something that's valuable, I'm going to take care of it. Stop trampling all over your marriage.
Yeah. So as we close, again, we want to thank our sponsors, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, Maxwell Construction, and Hummel Insurance Group for supporting Rock Solid Radio and Rock Solid Families. You know, we are so thankful for you. And as we are wrapping up 2021, we're coming to a close. We just want to thank you for your support. We have been blessed beyond measure in this ministry. Thank you for partnering with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing our shows. Please continue to do that because this is how we get important messages like this out. We prioritize what's important, and we believe faith in our family and our marriage is important.
All right. So thanks again for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Hummel Insurance Group for sponsoring today's show. Hummel Insurance Group now owns and operates 7 different offices located throughout the tri-state area. For over 50 years now, the Hummel Insurance Group has been assisting customers with insurance needs and questions. For all your insurance needs, contact Hummel Insurance Group at 812-537-1785. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.